What do you think the world would look like without the internet in 2026? What if the internet suddenly went offline right now? How long do you think you could last? One day? A week? Maybe you're thinking, I'd just watch some movies and finally get some rest. That's exactly what I thought too. I was one of the people who actually experienced what life without the internet was really like in 2026. Not for a few hours, for more than 100 days. Or to put it another way, more than 2,000 hours. You might be thinking, oh, come on, that's impossible. But it's true. It's all documented on NetBlocks. So what really happened? Why was the internet cut off for more than 3 months? And what does life and the world actually look like without the internet? February 28th, 2026. It was around 9:30 in the morning. I was eating breakfast while mindlessly scrolling through Instagram. A few minutes later, I heard around 30 explosions, one after another. The blasts were so powerful that windows in buildings dozens of meters away were completely shattered. That's right, on that day, around 100 Israeli fighter jets launched 30 Blue Sparrow missiles targeting the headquarters and bunker of Iran's supreme leader. Just a few minutes later, social media exploded with posts. Everyone was typing the exact same word. They hit it. People were desperately trying to find out whether their family members, friends, or co-workers were safe. But that didn't last long. Less than 30 minutes later, our connection to the global internet was almost completely gone. Not because cell towers had been destroyed, not because undersea cables had been cut, but because the Iranian government decided to shut the internet off with a single click. To be fair, that wasn't exactly surprising. They had done it many times before. Even during completely normal situations, internet shutdowns had almost become routine. But what nobody, not even for a second, expected was that this one would last for more than 100 days. Let's put that into perspective. Is 100 days really that long? Imagine spending your entire 3-month summer vacation without the internet. Do you think you could actually make it? But the real problems didn't start until after the internet disappeared. Have you ever imagined people ending up in prison because the internet was shut down? It sounds ridiculous, but it actually happened. 20 days after all of this, it was almost the Iranian New Year, the time of year when businesses make the most money and people do the majority of their shopping. Just like everywhere else in the world, store owners usually take out loans, stock up on new inventory, and prepare for the holiday rush. But that's exactly when the real disaster began. According to official estimates, the moment the internet was shut down, nearly 4 million online jobs and online businesses disappeared in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, there were business owners whose income depended almost entirely on Instagram and other online platforms. With the internet gone, the only things they had left were warehouses full of products, bank loans, monthly payments, and debts they had planned to pay off with their New Year's sales. As a result, a huge number of people ended up in prison simply because they couldn't repay their debts and loan payments. But wait, it's about to get even darker. Most of us had already experienced internet shutdowns that lasted 20 or 30 days. Somehow, we'd find ways to keep ourselves busy. But 100 days? That's a completely different story. Think about it. For 100 days, you have absolutely no idea what happened to the friends you only knew online. A few days later, the internet came back. But not the internet you're probably thinking of. What we call the national internet. Google doesn't work. None of Google's websites or services work. All international servers are unreachable. No VPN works. You can't access any foreign apps, websites, or platforms. Instagram, Telegram, ChatGPT, nothing. You can't even update the software on your own phone because your connection to the outside world has been completely cut off. The only thing you can use is a handful of domestic apps with weak infrastructure, almost no real security, and complete government monitoring and control. The connection was so slow that sending a single photo, even one that was only a few kilobytes, could sometimes take several minutes. Opening a short voice message wasn't always possible either. Something that used to take only a few seconds had now become a painfully long wait. At this point, maybe you're thinking, fine, I'd just put up with it for a few days. I'd watch movies and TV shows, my ebooks, my music, my courses. Everything I had always assumed would be there whenever I wanted it was suddenly gone. That was the moment I realized how dependent I'd become on something I'd always taken for granted. For those 100 days, the only thing I could watch was heavily censored content on domestic streaming platforms, and even that was frustrating. If a movie was originally 2 hours long, the version we got was sometimes only an hour and a half. Nearly 30 minutes had been cut out. And whenever a woman appeared wearing revealing clothing, parts of her body were covered with black boxes or pixelated mosaics. From the very first day, banking services started having serious problems. Many apps simply stopped working. Every online payment gateway across the country went offline. It's funny, as long as we have the internet, most of us complain about it. We complain about slow speeds, expensive data plans, constant outages, all its problems. But the moment it's completely gone, you realize the internet isn't just a way to watch funny videos or send messages. It's the infrastructure modern life is built on. Now we get to the biggest problem of all. A lot of people simply weren't going to have enough money to survive another 100 days. So they had no choice but to look for jobs that didn't depend on the internet. You might be wondering, how is that even possible? It is. Just imagine 4 million people suddenly being forced to find work in completely different industries, jobs that were already full, jobs that weren't even hiring. The result? 4 million people looking for work, and maybe only 1,000 openings. But that's still not the whole story. Those 4 million people were only the ones whose jobs existed online. I was one of them. There were countless others who worked in physical stores, companies, and government offices. But as businesses lost customers and revenue collapsed, many of them were laid off too, and they also needed new jobs. Maybe you can live without electricity for a few hours. Maybe if the water goes out for a while, you'll eventually find a way to deal with it. But when the global internet disappears for a long time, it's not just communication that breaks. Part of the economy, education, people's careers, friendships, and even hope itself slowly starts to disappear.